Now we are live on Facebook.
Yay.
Or not Facebook, I'm sorry, I lied. I just wanted you to feel good for a second.
Oh.
Aw, good feelings, I hate them. No, we're live on YouTube. Okay, so, I'm gonna upload that last video and maybe we'll just like splice it together so we don't have to go through the big intro again. I say that and then I'm gonna just dive right back into the intro because why not? I'm Brandon Kennedy. This is Bada Bing Bada Bam. I'm pointing at you. You can't even see it though.
No, I can't see anything. Hi, I'm Nick Morganmore. I'm a comedian. Bada bing bada, pointing at you.
Whoa. I need you to watch where you put your finger, man.
Aww.
But what we were doing, we were world building for the campaign, and now that we're on YouTube, everybody's gonna see like the hundreds of hours of D&D on my YouTube channel that we have. So of course you know what you're here for. Nick made a wonderful suggestion. Do you want to repeat it, or do you want me to summarize it?
Oh, you summarize it.
Okay, so we are building magical items for our D&D world, and I've got our personal wiki up here, and Nick suggested an item that allows you to kind of have the spell comprehend languages always active. One of the issues, though, with it, as you know, it's going to be a kind of experimental magical item. You can understand every language that's being spoken to you, but you can't wholly or you can't like knowingly know which language you're responding back to other people in. So sometimes you'll just be responding in like a mixed like form of gibberish to other people as you like dart through different languages. But the benefit of it is that you will be able to understand every other language. The other problem though is you start hearing the entire world around you. You hear ants doing their tasks. You hear birds like what they're singing about.
It gets so much that you can hear the trees growing and sighing at how much they enjoy the sunlight.
So let's call those glasses, let's see, it's going to be an item. The glasses of intensified understanding.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. So we can just put those right here. Glasses of intensified understanding. Alright, so as far as magical effects for it, oh man, people are like tuning in to watch me type. This is going to be like the best thing ever. These glasses allow the wearer to understand any and all communication around within 60 feet of the wearer.
I like it.
So you're not only understanding languages, you're understanding things doing their thingage. Then, of course, oftentimes simply wearing these glasses causes sensory overload when the wearer first adorns them. They must make a how overwhelming do you think this would be on a scale of easy to like suppress to impossible to suppress?
Yeah, so I think it would go from like a background hum, like you're at a cocktail fundraiser of some kind and you hear other people talking, and it raises to like, you know, a fucking concert of some kind where like you can't block it out. So like easy to just turn your head away from, all the way up to like I can't do anything other than just lie here, guys.
All right, so how about an increasing DC? So the DC is easy at first, like when you first put them on, of just all right, and then for every like minute longer that you wear them, it goes up and up and up.
Increases, the sensitivity until you're hearing individual blades of grass.
Must make a
the microbes who are in the back, the microbial bacteria that's in the soil, on the roots of the grass. That's all talking to you as well. Like by the time you're hearing that on top of everything else, you're not going to be having a good time.
All right, so this is how we're gonna do that rule-wise, and one of the reasons why I like doing this is so people can see like how I create magical items for the world. So there's a table on the DMG. In the DMG is the Dungeon Master's Guide on page 258. That is one of my favorite tables in the game, and it is called the Madness Effects table. And what this does is the stresses of adventuring and sometimes curses from magical items, the trauma of, like seeing someone die or something like that, can cause a character to have either short-term madness, long-term madness, or indefinite madness. And you can roll a D100 on this table. Do you have any dice in front of you?
I don't.
Okay, I'm going to roll us a D100 real quick to give you an example. You can roll a D100 on this table and it will give you a random result. So I rolled a D100 and we got a 74. So a short-term effect of madness, so like, stress stacking up so much against you or something like just temporarily breaking your brain of just like, oh my god. A 74 would be the character does whatever anyone tells him or her to do that isn't obviously self-destructive. Okay. And then other things on the table, one of my favorites is the 21 to 30 result. The character becomes incapacitated and spends the duration of the madness screaming, laughing, or weeping. So, for 10 whole minutes, you're just standing there.
I like it.
Anyways, so when they first adorn these glasses, they are going to have to they're going to have to make a Constitution saving throw, which means an effect is like wearing down on your hardiness. And if you don't overcome it, you fail the throw. And if they fail, they face a short-term madness effect. And each minute, that DC is going to get harder and harder.
I like it.
Alright. This DC must be repeated and must be repeated each minute and increases by 4 every time the character or every time the wearer succeeds the save. Alright. Does not require attunement. And we will put these as a rare magical item. Not because the spell is particularly hard to cast on it, but glasses in this world are not easy to craft. Takes some fine craftsmanship of working with metal and glass.
Okey-doke.
Alright, so as a quicker and we normally go through. Oh, there was something else I wanted to do on this. Oh yeah, the languages. While the glasses are on, where is person? The where responds in random, or the where speaks in random languages. Alright, so we're going to do a D10 table. Now that's so many. We're gonna do a D4 because I'm lazy. Roll 1d4 to determine what language the where speaks in. Alright, so are you familiar with the D&D languages?
No.
Alright, so we've got, if it is a thing, it probably has its own language, but one is going to be common. Common is basically the language most intelligent things are capable of speaking. The things that aren't going to be able to speak common are going to be your barely intelligent monsters and your primordial elementals. Other than that, demons, celestials, outsiders, humans, undead, all of those things are normally able to speak common. Common's basically English. And then, of course, you have your other fantasy languages of Dwarvish, Elvish, Halfling, Draconic, of your typical fantasy races. And then you get into your more far-flung ones, which would be like Celestial and Fiendish? No, it's Infernal. Infernal would be like the language of demons. And then you get a little further from that, and you get your weird languages, which is going to be like Sylvan is the language that forest creatures speak. There is a language called Primordial, which is the language elementals speak.
Ooh, that's cool.
But anything has its own language, and I can't remember all of them. So since you made this item, we're going to put 3 languages on here that aren't common. What languages do you want? Or do you think you should suggest?
I think the forest creatures language, which one was that one? Draconic?
Oh, Sylvan.
Sylvan. Okay, so that should be one of them.
Alrighty.
I think the demons language should be one of them.
Alright.
Infernal. And the celestial should be one of them, like the angels language. And is there like a computer, like I know that it's D&D, but like they have in the later ones introduced some more like computer-ish stuff. Is there like a technical language, one that's a little more technical, something that's a little more outside of things?
There isn't most of the time like mathematical or rather magical like spell equations and stuff are going to be in Draconic.
Yeah.
This world has 2 weird languages that we homebrewed for it called Sunscript and what's the other one? Old Tongue. And Old Tongue's kind of like a Latin for this world. It's a base language that's just...
Dude, Old Tongue.
Alright.
Old Tongue.
So, since you went with 2, or rather 5 languages, we're gonna add a 6 to make it roll on a D6. Awesome. That way, we don't have to like roll 1d6, re-roll if it's a 6. So give me one more language.
Old Tongue.
Okay, well no, I added that one. One more in addition to Old Tongue.
What ones haven't we used?
How about actual gibberish?
Yeah, straight up gibberish. I like it.
All right. So that is a whole item created. So that was actually a lot shorter than I thought it would be. I don't have anything planned until 10:30. If you want to make another one, we definitely can. Or we can make a creature, or I can tell you more about the world if there's something else you want to like add into this D&D world.
Tell me more about your world.
All right. So, just for an introduction thing to this world, the one thing that characterizes Ilderon, is it is completely plain lot. Like there's a multiverse, but nothing on Ilderon can travel to it, and nothing from the multiverse can travel into Ilderon. This place is completely plain lot, and one of the reasons for that is it is a plane where the gods like roam around with their mortal subjects. So a lot of religions in this world exist in the sense of these people can just walk down the street and ask like their god, what should I do? It's like, oh, you should do this. So things the world, all the cultures in the world have developed around how did their beliefs shape this culture? Because in world building, I think one of the most interesting parts of our society is like how Christianity, love it or hate it, has like shaped so much of our culture. Whether you believe in it or not, like we killed people, we murdered people over this, we made laws, etc., etc., etc. And so in this world, how did a different religion affect how the world developed? And so from there's lots of different cultures that are just totally off-centered. This world is not like Tolkien based or European based. It is of its own growth, and
good. I like that.
If anything, it's kind of like modern Western based as far as like the ideologies of the world. There are lots of elected rulers. And then it is also a lot of the like lore of the world is like based on African folklore, just because it's so strange and wonderful.
Yeah, I like it.
But I can go further in depth if you want. Are you looking at the stream?
No, I can't multitask like that. So I'm drawing a picture while I'm talking to you, and I'm trying to pay attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's this big old world.
No, I like it.
And
it's a touch Western.
Ideology is like Western.
Yeah.
American.
What kind of aesthetics is is your world?
Say it again.
What's it look like? What's the aesthetics? What's it look like?
So nation to nation is going to differ. Let me find the one I like the most. Oh man, that's so hard to say. We're gonna go with Dockensdale because that's probably like the most unique, or not the most unique, the most like rooted in understanding. Or we can go with Artisarai. All right, I'm just pointing and running with it. We're going with Dockensdale.
Okay.
Dockensdale is this like massive city in the center of the world. It is a port city in a country called Ililnagai. Ililnagai is a very interesting country because it is a religious country, but it is a meritocracy as far as their leaders are elected off of, oh, you're competent.
Right.
And there are two branches of government. The church, called the Sun Yith, runs most of the day-to-day rulings, while there's this other branch of government called the Risen, which is this massive preparatory school of like people join the Risen and they become civil servants, and Ililnagai is wholly devoted to a religion called the Wills, which serves the goddess of creation. And as like they are a religious country, it is a matriarchy as far as like how the society is structured, and so only women are allowed into the risen. So half of the government is only made up of women, and then the other half of the government is 50% women, 50% men. So this turns out that Lil Nagai has like a 75% like women running the government.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing about a Lil Nagai, and why like I'm saying this one first, is because they implemented crusades into the world just a couple years ago and wiped out a bunch of other religions. And it took me a while to like think of how can a culture that serves the goddess of creation and life justify killing other people. And so there's a whole like religious scriptures and things that that we've made for them inside of the wiki that explains how they justify crusading and literally bringing these awful acts to other nations, and how it is like okay and just and that needed. Dawkinsdale itself though is since it's in the center of the world, it's like New York. It is the center of culture. Everybody like looks towards it for learning, trading, influence, like new ideologies. The world is on the edge of a. It just got done with an awakening. Awakening is like the spiritual period of like history. It just got done with an awakening, and it's on the edge of like an enlightenment, which would be like a Renaissance period. Yeah, and that is about to start in Dawkinsdale, provided the evil do-batters don't destroy the entire world.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. All right, so what sort of monsters are there? I'll help you make a monster, and then I'll get off of the stream.
Okay. Now, monsters are actually probably one of my harder areas to come by, or like one of the harder things for me to world build.
Okay.
My belief, as far as like how I DM, the scariest thing in the world is not what's lurking in the dark or what monster is out there, coming after you. But the scariest thing in the world to me is what. Yeah. No, but what the person sitting next to you is capable of. And so a lot.
You're gonna have some killers in your world.
I need to make some, but
you need to talk to my girlfriend about some serial killers for your world. Okay?
A lot of the tension and problems in the world are political problems that oftentimes like need solving with swords or stuff, and most of the villains and issues are other people. And that is just like because that's how I generally approach fantasy and fiction of like people are monsters.
That's how it works. Like you watch any zombie show and it's not about the zombies being bad, it's about how bad the people are.
But with that, there are some custom things we have in the world. I'll give you two. I'll describe the Terrai and Bridgehounds to you. So the Terrai, there are things in this world called shatterings, which are basically once an event gets so bad, like to Holocaust World War II levels, where, almost entire groups of people were like pushed to extinction, it is called a shattering. There have been 3 of these in history so far, or 4 of them in history. And during the second shattering, there was what is basically a very, very, very powerful necromancer. Created these things called Terrai, which are a special type of undead. He took the soul out of a person. And the soul in this world is kind of like a fire that, provides, like your body is turned on, but the soul, is the fire that kind of keeps it moving. And everything you do is, like fuel for that fire. So he took the soul out of people and just warped it into pure arcane magic. And when he did that to people, they just became like these semi-sentient husk. And as long as he kept like pumping magic into them, they were perfectly fine. They just obeyed his orders. And he created an army of these things that nearly wiped humanity off of the map. There were like 3 human settlements left after he was done, and he campaigned in a place about the size of Europe. And so 3 settlements, you know, down from like literally hundreds of thousands of villages and stuff is like what he destroyed. So this guy nearly pushed humanity to the brink. An event called an Ascension happened for the first time in history, and a mortal became a god and stopped him.
Nice.
And once that happened, all of these undead soldiers that he created just stood around. And after a couple months, those that didn't die became sentient again, and was just like, hey, whoa, what's going on with that? Why am I so hungry? Whoa. And they found out they, without a soul, they have to consume other people's souls to keep surviving. Yeah. And so every time, when they do consume another person's soul, that person then becomes a Terai and now has to eat somebody else's soul to survive. If, you know, if they don't kill the person.
I have an idea. Okay. And it might be stupid, or it might be brilliant. Probably stupid. But, okay. So, in your world, you got sort of like, they're kind of undead. They're kind of like a vampire.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They have the undead template. Yeah.
Okay. I'm so sick of seeing undead. Like, they put undead everywhere. It's undead zombies, it's undead vampires, it's undead everything. Okay. I want something that's double alive.
Double alive?
Something that's double alive, because I can't think of anything. Like, my life is terrible, okay? I don't want to be double this. What if, like, there was a sickness that went through your world that made some people have 2 souls, and it was, like, terribly, like, everything that they did, they felt twice as much guilt. Everything that they did, it took twice as much effort. And there's people who are, like, suffering horribly because they're not undead, they're double alive. Oh, Megan just told me that cats have 9 lives. But so cats would be unaffected by this illness, but humans,
So not a monster, but a disease.
Yeah, I want a disease.
All right.
Sounds terrible.
All right. So no. I like the concept of just a super increased amount of suffering.
Yeah. Yeah, like all your suffering is doubled.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. One of the reasons why these undead were so strong was because essentially your soul was like a string. It could only channel like so much arcane magic through your body before the soul just snapped and broke.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you lost your connection to whatever afterlife you believed in because you don't have a soul anymore. So people would be very conservative in that regards as far as like experimenting on themselves. But once you take the soul out of a person and you're like a magical guy with no morals, you can make your soldiers whatever you want, you know. You can give this guy like 10,000 pills of steroids and caffeine and say, go kill that dude, and not worry about his kidneys in 2 days, because who cares? You know? So one thing I'm thinking is, like, the reason why Terai were so strong initially was because you can magically pump power into them without worrying about the drawbacks. So for this double sickness... Say it again?
It went quiet.
One more time, I didn't hear you. Okay. But for this magical sickness would be like somebody with a soul tried to pump themselves up and it kind of worked, but because for that brief second of power, forever they're going to be, you know, like feeling this vulnerability of like what that intensity of feeling causes. Does that make sense? Alright. I think Nick died on me. Alright, so we're just...
I'm back now. Okay.
Oh, cool.
My voice you disappeared from my headphones for a second, and I was worried that I was all alone and that I was dreaming my entire life and that I was still a baby.
I mean, all of that's a very real possibility. We might have just flipped the Matrix back on, so...
It's true.
I'm kidding. So what's the last thing you heard me say?
You were explaining about how, like, if they remove the soul, then they can, they're able to do more to the body with arcane magic because the soul won't break from the arcane magic?
Yeah. So, well, yeah. You don't have to worry about breaking the soul from the arcane magic. So I'm thinking for this magical sickness, as far as, you feel everything twice, like you tried to amplify your body or soul, like while your soul was still inside of you, and at some point were successful, but because of it, forever, although you don't have the strength anymore, but forever you have that intensity of like amplified, or that amplified sensitivity.
I like that idea, but I want it to be like more than just like physical sensitivity. I want them to have like double the guilt that they would normally have over every action.
Okay, I'm
Is
thinking
that asking too much?
Well, it's a fantasy world. Nothing's asking too much.
You're the DM. You can point people and you can be like, you feel an overwhelming sense of shame, and they just like slowly slump to the ground.
One thing though I'm thinking is, how would this be a conditioned disease of just like, oh man, you stepped on a rusty nail and it's done, or would it be like contagious, like it can spread person to person?
I'm thinking it's something that's maybe contagious. I'm thinking, because I was thinking because it's people who are like, as a reverse of like undead and half alive, right? So sometimes when a murdered person's soul is leaving their body to go to their afterlife, it gets stuck to someone, and then they get weighed down with like all of that person's crap, or maybe it just happens to one person, and then like they're powerful, and so it turns into a virus from there, where other people are feeling like double effects. I'm not sure. I was thinking it would work real well as like a virus that goes around, and like the only way to solve it is to find what soul is connected to your soul and like get them to their afterlife, because you're carrying this other person's soul around with you.
Okay, I have an idea. So there is there's a lot of magic in this world that's tied to the land and basically like the spirit of the plane. And there's this faction called the Archblight. They were born like this faction came together far after the first Terrai were made, but essentially throughout history what happened was people did not like Terrai, and they're like, all right, we need to kill these people. And the Archblight formed and was like, all right, we need to kill everybody in the entire world. And so they're kind of like reactionary Nazis. They are the most awful, vile things in the world, but nothing wants them to exist, so they kind of have a right to be. But there are Terrai in the world that, actually... that's one of the big moral quandaries of this world, is that Terrai undead aren't necessarily evil.
No, yeah.
So, anyways, though, one method that the Archblight has taken to is that they no longer need regular means to survive. All they need is, is like magical essence. And so a tactic they employ in warfare is blighting the land and destroying everything. Literally, like, destroying the magical essence of a land so nothing can grow there. And that it spreads, like plague and famine. And they do this by altering their own body and becoming, plague bearers. And so one thing I'm thinking is like if one of these things dies on a land, and it's not like, because there's two types of ways that Terrai do this in this world, and this spawns from as far as like where the idea comes from. For some reason, a vampire needs to sleep in special dirt.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's vampire things doesn't work. And I always thought that was a weird connection that they had to land. But anyways, Terrai have an entire nation called the Darkened Vale, and this is on the other side of a desert. And what the Terrai did there was they blighted the land and basically killed it, so that they need to consume other people's souls. Basically, the land has yielded its soul, and every Terrai that lives in that nation doesn't feel hunger because the land is constantly feeding them the energy they need. It's not growing anything. It's just, that energy that would normally grow things just rises up. So
you inverted it so the ground was hungry.
Well, that's what I was thinking of. Like, so the Archblight would specifically be going around like killing lands, so nothing can grow. If one of these things that isn't like the ritual's not like properly done on, dies in a like mortal nation, or rather a regular nation, and that essence comes up, and people absorb it, they're gonna feel sickened. Because they're just going to be overwhelmed with all this, like...
They have the feeling of the land, and the only way to fix it is for either them to die and lose, or for them to drive the baddies out, because they're now tied to their land.
Yeah, and, well, and of course, too, they're going to be feeling that double everything. Of, like, now they have the two souls inside of them.
Yep, they've got, like... Yeah, I like it. And it seems real terrible to begin with, but, like, later on there's, like, a secret advantage to having that.
Yeah, I don't know what the advantage would be.
The advantage would be that because they've got like double the, it's.
Oh yeah, if somebody steals their soul, they've got two.
Exactly, and if they're like injured and damaged, like they can't die because the ground, their land is literally keeping them alive by pumping the land's soul into them. So people who are affected by it really strongly can't die at all. They probably want to, but they can't.
So...
And they're immune to having soul sucked out because they got two.
Well, I mean, they can still have their soul sucked out, but...
That's true.
It just, takes twice as much effort.
Yes, yeah, there we go. It's like the land is fortifying them, but it feels terrible.
So, what would we call this? I'm thinking like, so the island the Archblight comes from is called Betrayer's Isle. So I'm thinking like Betrayer's Blight or something. Yeah. Also thinking of like Life Blight. That sounds a little generic. How about oh, I can't even say it. Never mind. It's gonna say like nausea and Nick Morgan Moore, like Morzia, but yeah, there is actually a nation named Morzia, so.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, yeah, something like the Land Affliction, but I'm not sure. You come up with a cool name for it. I just came up with 5 different ideas and then tried to stab them together because I don't know what you're doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. That is a consistent part of this campaign. Is if you ever tune in and we can end on this story and I'll like type up this disease and like detail later. But oh god, it's 6 minutes and I've got to find one of 2 really good stories to tell you. I want to tell you the most recent. So the players went into there's this major like royal family in the world called the Calgarans. And the Calgarans are special because Kargod Calgaran, was the very first mage. He discovered magic, and he used it to destroy an evil demigod that he found in the world. And like the prehistoric, this would be like 300 BC. Kargog discovered magic, and he killed this demigod. Later in history, what you people have found out was that demigod's soul bound to Kargog's when he killed him, and as he's been having a family, he's been passing on a piece of this generation to generation to generation, and it finally manifested in one of his offspring named Kalfir. And this guy was like a super evil mage who almost destroyed the entire world. He caused a shattering. And so the players found the catacombs of the Calgaran family. And in these catacombs, there were the most beloved Calgarans buried here. And there were also the most hated Calgarans buried here, because the family just has a twisted history. And so, I'm expecting and this is a story of why I never know what's going to come out of this campaign. I never know what I'm doing. I'm expecting a nice, pleasant dungeon crawl. They experience the lore of the world. They, solve some puzzles, get some treasure, kill some bad things. They go down this tunnel, and they see that this place is inhabited by deceased spirits. And that there were some tortured Calgarans here inside of this catacombs, that the world literally could not kill these Calgarans. They just wouldn't die, so they just shackled them at the bottom of these catacombs forever to, suffer. And so the players come across the manacles, and they're empty. And the inscription on the wall says, here, they're going to be tortured and restrained forever. And they're like, oh, shit. You're like, what do we do? And so they're just like, all right, we're just going to get the item we came for, and we're going to leave. There is a magical seal on a door that is holding it shut and stopping spirits from exiting it or going into this chamber. And without even questioning what the magic is, because, most of the time, sometimes there's magical traps, sometimes they're mechanical traps. Without even questioning what the magic is, the sorcerer is like, oh, there's magic here, can I dispel it? And I'm just like, sure. And so he dispels it, and all the spirits flood into this room. They go through this huge epic battle, and this death knight essentially rises out of the coffin, and it's just it feels so good to be free. And I'm like, all right, now this is an epic boss battle where this dungeon went from medium to hard, and we'll pick it up next session. And the players are like, yeah, we all run. And I'm like, wait, you run? And they're like, yeah, we're out of here. And they just run straight out of the catacombs, door open, everything. And so now there's this unspeakable, crazy, unimaginable evil that's been resurrected into the world that just has an open door. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's good.
Catacomb.
Yeah, that's going to change everybody's campaign. And I didn't plan for that.
Great. No. Yeah, that's funny. That's great. I love that.
And that is pretty much every session. To the one person who's watching this, I appreciate it. We are going to peace out for the night. I'm going to try and do more world building stuff in the future, just so you guys can see how my brain works, and bring. Hopefully, Nick will do it more with me.
Yeah, I'll probably have better ideas next time. Mine were a bit half-baked this time, but next time they'll be fully baked.
Yeah, no schedule on this. If you liked it, please comment or send me a message or something. I'll try and get them more. Boom! We're done for the night. Stay real.
Awesome.